Says we're live.
All right, fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you all so much for your patience. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ambrian Hernandez, and I serve as Communications and Programs Coordinator with CAIR-Houston. Here with us today, we have fantastic guests and panelists joining for this very important conversation and discussion. This program has been brought to you in partnership with the Multicultural Center, which is based in Webster, Texas. Rubina, do you want to say your salams and welcome our special guests here and everyone that's viewing this event on behalf of MCC?
Yes, alaikum. I want to greet you with the Islamic greeting of peace be upon you. My name is Rubina Zaman, and I'm on the board member of the Multicultural Center, the MCC. And the MCC is a state-of-the-art facility which formed in order to celebrate our shared humanity, basically. We have several programs that enhance interaction between diverse cultural, religious, and causal related groups to bring about better understanding for everyone. And I just would really like to thank all of you for being here, because I know this week was like a whole roller coaster of emotion week, and a lot of you are exhausted because you guys are activists and community leaders and you've been working so hard. So I really wanted to thank you for being here. I know you guys must be exhausted and we really appreciate it. We wanted to be here today to have this important conversation with these amazing panelists, because right now the country is so divided, and we just want to see how we can unify and how we can move forward, because the work is not done no matter who's in office. And so we just wanted to see how we can go forward. And I just, again, thank you for being here. And thank you to CAIR and Black Lives Matter and Embrace for also being a part of this.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, Sister Rubina. Of course, these programs can't be brought without the partnership of incredible community organizations like yourself. So thank you so much for all of your organizing efforts here in this as well. And so, yes, thank you. So for those who are unfamiliar with CAIR's work, our mission is fourfold, and that's to enhance the understanding of Islam, promote justice, protect civil rights, and empower American Muslims. And so that's how this all came together, is because this is how we live our mission, and this is how we are, inshallah, hoping to bring all these important topics and issues, right, around this election all together. And so as you all have heard so far, especially from Sister Rubina Zaman here, Election Day has, alhamdulillah, passed. We have our 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden, along with Vice President Kamala Harris, and so many other elected officials between Congress all the way down to a very local level, already elected, alhamdulillah. And so as we've all experienced these past few weeks, there has been an increased polarization, right, between the very different communities that exist. And so we saw it to be very important in a pivotal moment in our history to come together and talk about what's next. Like, how do we move on from here? How do we start the community healing, community building process? And so here with us today are various grassroots organizers to elected officials to help us figure out what that looks like. What's the blueprint? And so without further ado, I'm very excited to introduce to you all, alhamdulillah, we have our council member at large, Representative District 4, Letitia Plummer. Wave your hand as I introduce you guys, so folks know who you are. Thank you so much for being here with us. We have John Floyd, who is our CAIR-Houston board president and chairman. We have Nahela Morales, who is an activist and is representing Embrace, which is a project of ICNA. We have Miguel Torres representing FIEL Houston, Michael Floyd, who was elected 18 to represent Pearland ISD School Board and now is currently serving as an elected statewide official of the Texas Democratic Party. We have Jermaine Ibanez, who is representing Houston Climate Movement. And last but not least, we have Mustafaa Carroll representing CAIR Dallas-Fort Worth. So thank you all so much for being here with us. How's everyone doing? I mean, how are you guys feeling? I mean, yeah, come on.
We can breathe a little bit.
Happy that it's Sunday.
It's Sunday. I mean, I know we've been so anxious, right, with these elections. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. I don't know how your phones were yesterday, but mine was blowing up, right? It was just like, it's done. It's done. So now we're here. It's Sunday. We're starting off this week fresh. So what's next? What do we do? So I'd like to kick it off with that question first, right? To start this conversation is, what have your observations been of this election, right? In comparison and in contrast to what we've seen in the past. So whoever would like to start first, please go for it. We're gonna do this popcorn style.
All right, so Trump was a great motivator to get people out. The civic engagement has gone through the roof, and so we've broken records at the Houston level, the county level, the state level, and federally. So I think it's, if Trump did anything, it motivated people to get out and vote. So I'm happy about that.
Absolutely. Anyone else would like to share anything, what they think or what their observations have been, like compare and contrast to? Yeah.
We have to thank and I think recognize our minorities that really got to work, especially, our people of color, Latinos, Native Americans. And so everybody organized. And I think that was pivotal in this election. And we saw that organization does work, grassroots does work, coming together does work. And so all of that is normally undermined or, underestimated. And this election just told us that when we really unite and solidify what really is important to us, we can definitely make a difference.
I agree.
And I'd like to jump in too. I also believe that it really emphasized how important character and integrity is for humanity in general. I think it's something that we now realize, a lot of times when you see someone in office like Trump, you realize exactly what you do not ever need. And so it highlighted those two characteristics, in my opinion, that we take for granted often, just as Americans. And so, I'm excited. And obviously to have, Kamala there is, our vice president-elect is like huge.
Absolutely. Just to have that level of decorum again back in office, that it's more than refreshing. Refreshing is an understatement, right? So inshallah, hopefully we'll see how it goes. So with all of that in mind, obviously, no matter who's in office, we all have a responsibility to hold all of these parties accountable for all the decisions they make, especially as they impact us on a very local level. And so you all come from different perspectives and from different spaces and different lines of work. And so what are the biggest topics and themes or policies that you are all in your own respective roles looking forward to seeing more of, or at least develop under this administration? And what are the ways that you guys are looking to hold them accountable from a very local, again, going up, right, level? And you guys can break it up as you want, but that's kind of like the overarching theme of this conversation. Yeah. And
hey, Brother Mustafaa, would you like to chime in, bro? I know you have some things to say.
Not to chime in. I got too much on my head.
I know.
Here's the deal. We've been through, if you've been around a while, you've seen similar situations. My concern above all is that people will go back to sleep. That's what I'm really concerned about. I applaud the fact that ethnic minorities and women got out and et cetera, but it seems like we always have to get out when it's something huge, like somebody like a Trump has to come along to make you want to get out, or you're losing something big. And we have to get into a habit of activism at a more sophisticated level than we're still begging people to vote. I've been trying to get people to vote for the last umpteen years. And I will give Trump credit that he did more in the 4 years than I could do in 30. I have people questioning me when I try to get them to vote, but he just acted a fool and people came right out. So I'm really concerned about that. The other thing is that, I think we all feeling some relief that we voted this guy out. But let's be real, the country is not just getting divided, it's been divided. The only thing that he did was make people comfortable in being divided. He made it comfortable for them to say things that they hadn't said in years, and do things that they hadn't done in a while. But they were there. They had never left. And I think it's important for us to understand that. The other thing, you know, is that we have to deal with this issue of making sure that everybody has a voice. And I think that a lot of poor whites don't feel like they have a voice. And now that might be their fault for feeling like that. But they assume certain things because you had a Black president, or now that you got a African-American Indian vice president, that they feel put out, you know. But, you know, for the last, 48 presidents or whatever, or vice presidents, we haven't had any diversity in that area. So now, you know, you have this, what I think is termed as projection, that there are some people who've been doing a lot of ugly stuff, and now all of a sudden they feel like the same thing is going to happen to them when the tables turn. So I have a lot more to say. I don't want to just take up the time, you know, because I've been watching this for so long. But my concern, my major concern, is that we let our guard down. Number one, that we let our guard down, that we don't understand that this thing is not over. Just getting him out of office is just the beginning. We got a whole lot more. Look, John Cornyn went back for another term. He's never done anything for our community. You know, we got Cruz to deal with. We still got Governor Abbott. These people are damaging Texas.
That's right.
I mean, we have people that can't even get health care, the treatment at the border is coming out of this state. You know, so we have still got a lot of work, so we don't need to be too relaxed. I know we feel like jumping up and shouting for joy. Everybody that's been texting me and calling me have been having a religious experience. You know, I'm getting from the Muslims, I'm getting alhamdulillah, and I'm getting hallelujah, thank God.
Amen.
So everybody saw God this week. It's a beautiful thing. All my relatives are calling, talking about praise God. And I said, man, you don't even go to church. So you know, but that's just
But it's not enough, right? So like, what do we do from here? And so, yeah, who would like to start off on that? Because I think what you share is beautiful, right? And that's why we're doing this right now. It's like we're all really ecstatic, but how do we keep this going? Because it's more than just celebrating now.
Well,
So
you know, what I would like to kind of piggyback on what Brother Mustafaa was talking about is that after we get past this giddiness of just removing someone, you know, from a civil rights perspective, from a criminal justice reform perspective, you know, from the things that I care about, just getting rid of this president was a priority. What I found after I got past the initial jumping up in joy and you know, and slapping hands and thanking God after you know, this election, is looking at these numbers. We need to take this very seriously. We still came out of this election with over 70 million people nationally, over 700,000 people in our county, in Harris County, all voted for this man, right? Knowing his history, knowing his rhetoric, knowing what he stands for, knowing that he holds absolutely no regard for the truth, no regard for people's civil rights. He does not care at all about the working class, about any marginalized peoples. He doesn't care about anyone in this country except for himself. And he still managed to carry, you know, a close enough margin that was scared us. I mean, I'm watching TV for the last 4 days, can't get away from it, worried this guy's gonna get elected. So I think the next step in my book is that we need to put our foot on the gas at this moment. You know, now we're at a moment where we have people awake, and we need to keep them engaged, and we need to you know, keep our organizing and all the efforts that we were using to try to get him out, now to get other individuals that hold those kinds of philosophies and platforms and ideologies. We need to get them out also. And so we need to keep doing what we've been doing and not let up.
now, everyone in this group, thank you so much, Sean. Everyone in this group represents different interests and do different work, right? So Miguel, you're coming from FIEL Houston. Would you like to share what it has been for you guys, right? The fights that you've had in these past 4 years of this administration, and what are you guys looking for in the next decade or so with policy and everything?
Sure,
That
for sure.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, well, first of all, thank you guys so much for having us. Yeah, so these past 4 years have been absolute hell for the migrant community, just a constant war being barraged on us. So one of the biggest things we're looking forward to going into this in the coming year is to see to it that Joe Biden does end the war on immigrants that has been cast upon us over the past 4 years. But like we mentioned, none of that is going to happen without pressure being applied. So one of the biggest things, since we saw that our base couldn't take part in the electoral aspect of this organizing, we are looking to build community power, and that goes with coalition building, like with CAIR, like with many other young organizations that have been sprung up, just having actions here locally, whether it's at the courthouse, demanding that the eviction dockets be thrown out because we're in the middle of a pandemic and people can't, and the politicians are not meeting the needs of the time, whether it's gathering resources and distributing it throughout the community. We have been trying to reach out to organizations that do like community feeding, manage community fridges all throughout the city. And so those are like initiatives that we can all take care at home. And everybody has been, the experience for this cycle has been really astonishing, because some people, they're getting awakened to the fact, not just that things aren't broken, but that these systems and the institutions we have were never meant for people of color. They were never meant for immigrants. And so we're using that, when people get to that realization, then they feel much more mobilized and to realize to just demand basic human rights, basic decency for themselves and their communities. And we're willing to do anything we need to do in order to achieve that goal.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, very well said. And Mike, what do the numbers look like right now? I mean, I know that you've been very involved on a local level, and yeah, so what has your analysis been thus far of this election?
Yeah, no, so
Texas perspective. Mm-hmm.
for sure. And I know that I'm with the Texas Democratic Party. I know that CAIR is officially nonpartisan. So thank you for allowing me to share some words.
So is MCC.
So is MCC. Yeah. I know everyone is outnumbered. We've been hearing, John King and Steve Kornacki at the Magic Wall this whole week, going back and forth. But look, the numbers for Texas Democrats were disappointing. We were expecting to do a lot better in this state. The polling suggested that. We were expecting to do a lot better in Harris County, and we, didn't. And so that from the state party, what we're doing is we're hoping to have a new holistic re-understanding of how we view Texas and Texas politics. I mean, 1.3 million more people voted for Joe Biden in Texas than Hillary Clinton. 1.2 million more voted for Donald Trump in Texas than they did in 2016, right? So yeah, Democrats, we gained a point, maybe 1.5% on the overall statewide, but it just wasn't enough. I mean, turnout in the rural areas was off the charts. And even in like urban areas, if you look at Harris County, the largest gains in turnout were from places like Kingwood and the Woodlands and Baytown, very conservative areas really turning out. So we can't underestimate the Trump machine. I mean, we have to give credit. I mean, as despicable as a person that I think he is, he's a masterful politician. He's really perfected that art of turning out people who, again, like Mustafaa said earlier, just feel like they have no voice. They want to stick up a finger to the system. They want to tear it down because it's, benefiting other people. But I will tell you this, we often get bogged down in these 4-year presidential elections. This was a battle in just many of the others to come, right? There's a whole other, we have these Georgia races coming up in January. But the biggest defeat, I think, for us, and look, Democrats are good at spinning a defeat out of a victory. Like we won, we got him out, but we lost the state house here in Texas. We gained, I think, 1 seat on the average. So on the whole, so, redistricting is coming up, for another decade. It's not going to look good for Democrats here in Texas. And I know that many policies that Democrats carry are important to this community. But hopefully what we can do is we can make inroads with the majority and see if there's a couple people in swing districts who had close elections, but just, we couldn't get them out. It was a very small number of voters who really determined this entire cycle in the next decade.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mike. So Letitia, going back, focusing on what that looks like on a local level, can you share with us what organizing has looked like for you guys, and what are some of the things that you do foresee impacting your local district, for example, on a, in that, from that perspective.
No, absolutely. So first of all, thank you for allowing me to be here. And I really want to just jump on what Mike was saying. In my world, there's a ripple effect that comes from a federal level to a state and then municipal. My real focus right now is police reform. And so hopefully we'll get some guidance, some national guidance from the federal government now that Joe Biden is in place, and Senator Harris is there as well. But there's going to be a gap there on the state level, and a lot of our directives come from TCOL, which is our Texas guiding force when it comes to any police reform or mandates, training, things of that sort. And so I'm going to have a difficult time working with TCOL, possibly because we don't have control of the Senate, and we didn't get any, we didn't gain any seats in the House, and so that's really a little concern for me, because although politics is local, and there is definitely some control locally that we do have, and that we are pushing forward. We have over 100 pages have been released by a task force that's released it. In my mind, the city of Houston's already had their time to figure out what we need to do. This election's over now, so now it's moving forward in terms of what we need to get done on a local level. So I am really vocal about making that happen. And that's one thing I'm, super laser focused on. But in all of that, obviously a moratorium still is in place until the end of the year. And so we have to make sure we can keep people at home. Our COVID numbers are increasing. How do we make sure we stay in business and do what we need to do, but keep everyone safe? And definitely with what Miguel said, which was beautiful in terms of keeping people fed. Hundreds of people are having a really hard time. And, the way that voters voted, they voted on economy. The economy was the first thing that they voted on. And it wasn't necessarily because they were worried about the economy. It was because they really want to go to work. People don't, a lot of the conservatives believe that Democrats just want to take from the government, and that's not true. We want to work. We want to inject resources into the economy. We want to take care of our families. And that's a natural, innate ability that we want to have, and not being able to do that is devastating to people. And so, keeping that balance in place is going to be critical. But I want to just make sure that we stay safe, that we open everything up safely, and whatever we can do from an ordinance perspective. One thing we did pass in Houston is allowing restaurants to use their parking lots. So they can, allow additional outdoor seating so people can eat. We want to keep our restaurants thriving. Obviously, the hotels, the theater district is devastated right now. We literally, they don't have insurance. We've laid off thousands of workers because they don't have jobs right now. And so my goal and focus in this recovery process, and not even recovery because COVID numbers are increasing, we haven't touched recovery yet, but how do we deal with COVID right now is keeping people employed at the best level that we can, and watching police reform. So those are my two things I'm really going to keep a close eye on.
Thank you so much.
I'm really interested in also how do we push back now on the false narratives, right? The false narratives that have come from our national leadership and have trickled all the way down to the local level. And how do we message the truth and the truth be heard, right? Instead of all this nonsense we keep hearing. Mustafaa, what do you think, man? How do we head this off and start talking the truth to people so that they'll actually believe us?
Well, I think, one of the things that we can't do is always defending. We need to be on the offensive in terms of getting things done. It's not a matter of whether telling people that's not true. It's a matter of telling them what is true, telling them, using language that makes common sense. I'm going to tell you one of the things, and I had an issue with it, even though I understand why they said it. And that is when people start saying defund the police, that language, they took it, that went way deep into the Republican narrative. Now, whether or not you think that, I don't want nobody to defund the police. We got some serious people out here. But what I want them to do is stop killing folks. I want them to stop shooting innocent people. I want them to do their job the way they should be doing it. And so somehow we got to have more of our language has got to to reflect common sense. You know, the common person don't understand that kind of stuff. They really don't. I mean, you know, and we say things that sounds great for our group. You know, in our group, we understand, but I didn't understand it. And I'm sure if I don't understand it, there are a lot of other people that don't. And that's just an example. The other thing, you know, is we have to have more strategic directives towards dealing with our issues. You know, we don't always have to be in the street. We got to write some bills. We got to start thinking about what is it, for example, what is it that could stop the police from killing folks would think twice. And I saw something that Dick Gregory said years ago. He said, make them have their own insurance for that kind of stuff. And if they lose their insurance, then, you know, they wouldn't be able to be officers anymore. So, and that's just a really, I guess, loose example of what I'm talking about. But we got to start thinking beyond protesting in the street.
Absolutely. So I'd love to ask German Herman now, and I hope I'm saying your name right. My apologies. Herman, there we go. What does that look like in the fight for climate change, or at least, right, in telling that narrative? Because there's so many that are out there, but we know it's been scientifically proven. And so walk us through what that has been in the last 4 years of this administration, and where and what that looks like now, right?
Okay, so Trump rolled back a bunch of EPA regulations, trying to help the coal industry and other industries that are large polluters. The market actually corrected what Trump tried to do, because essentially natural gas kept on getting lower, and we've closed more coal plants in the United States, and actually have helped even during the Trump time. So the market prices have actually corrected that. What locally, I'm going to be knocking on Councilmember Plummer's door to implement the Climate Action Plan. The Climate Action Plan in Houston is a framework, a document, but it requires individual votes to get things through. So the three things that I'm being working on to try to get through are the EV adoption for the fleet in the city of Houston, adoption of the building codes that need to be updated, and number three is trying to get a new ordinance put together to have multifamily homes put in recycling programs. Right now, if you live in an apartment, there's no way to recycle things in those things, and they're not required to. So those are the three things I'll be working on locally. On the state front, we lost our biggest chance to fix things was Christine Castañeda in Railroad Commission, and she lost big, unfortunately. And so the thing that I would be looking to do at the state level would be the renewable portfolio standard. We blew past it very quickly in the first time, but we haven't really revised it. So that would be one thing. The second thing we could do is set things up so you can have carbon pricing. So things like TCEQ being allowing them to put a price on carbon, ERCOT be able to collect if you have a price on carbon, and then the Railroad Commission to be able to collect taxes that we do on pricing. At the federal level, the Senate is going to be key. If we've got bills already to do carbon pricing, and then we can reverse. I mean, the president-elect can reverse everything that was done on the EPA side. But if we've got a stymied Senate, we've got over 10 bills on carbon pricing in different levels there already, but nothing's going to the floor for votes. So I think that the key is Georgia, to get those two senators to be Democrats, and then things will be easier. And it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be easier. If we don't get that, it's going to be one thing. I read history, and so we have the ability to do deals, not the deals that we want to do, but deals that move the pace forward. And so we've got we've got Biden who knows the Senate backwards and forwards, and you've got people that can do deals. And McConnell is friendly with Biden, so there are things to be done. So I want to stress to my more liberal friends than I am to say that we have to move steps forward, and that is, you shouldn't get too mad that we don't get everything perfect. There is time to fix things in the future, and so that's the message, because the Green New Deal is not going to happen. But we can get carbon pricing. We can do things. We can roll back, and we can reinstate everything on the EPA. We can do a lot of things that will move our
agenda forward.
So that's the way I'm looking at it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Miguel, same question applies to you. Oh, go ahead.
Can I hop in for one moment? Because I want to, because Romain, I'm gonna need some support from you. One thing we didn't include when it comes to climate change is our roads and freeways. And we need to have some level of control of TxDOT, because they come in and they just put in I-45 is something we're dealing with locally right now. 20 lanes of freeways is the last thing that we need to have right now in Houston. Yep. And so, that's one thing. Our climate action plan is solid. I love it, but we can't have a climate action plan that's got national recognition and then turn around and approve TxDOT putting in I-45 expansion. So it's got to make sense. And so that's somewhere that I want to work with you and your organizations and really everyone that's watching that understands how important, not only to keep cars off, cars, the level of cars down, but also destroying communities that we don't necessarily need to destroy.
Yeah, that's a state level thing, and so we're going to have to lobby that way, and it's going to be tough because they don't seem to, everything that I've heard so far, and I've kept up with it. Every time that we try to change the lanes, and they keep on going back to the same plan that they had before, and they're not listening.
Yeah. They do, but I will say this, the administration, I believe, understands the importance of not doing it. The Commissioner's Court also does. So if we can really stand together, I do believe we can make some changes happen. So we just have to work together. We just can't, like you said, we got to keep our foot on the gas.
And looking at the transition plan and what that looks like and how it's prioritizing, right? Climate change, immigration reform, you name it. And what are the ways that they are looking to make this a very practical and yet realistic and thing for us in our communities. Miguel, I'd love to hear from you about same thing, right? What's the truth about immigrants and how do we turn away now or undo, right, this false narrative that has been portrayed about immigrants for so long under this administration, and what are the next steps for us to undo all of that?
Absolutely, yeah, no. One of the biggest things I think beyond immigrants, but the Latino community in general, is that with nothing else, campaigns and anybody who wants to seek office should have learned that Latino voters are not a monolith.
Yep.
Right.
So like the way that you do outreach to our community should be as diverse as the Latinx community is here. And so one of the biggest things that we're trying to do is to just get the education out there. Because of COVID, our ability to do stuff like that is a little bit more restrictive, but if we can, with local organizations, we've been looking to start doing just like educational seminars in the park where it's a public access open area for anybody, and it doesn't matter doesn't cost anything to just come through. We will be partnering with local organizations to give the educational part to just kind of debunk this whole narrative. One of the biggest things we're also going to do to try to combat that is through advocacy in terms of reaching and building the bridges between the halls of government and the community that didn't exist before. We kept our eyes very closely on candidates who that looked like could be very promising partners, especially Harris County Attorney Christian Menifee. There's definitely looks like there's a lot of place where you can go to try to protect their community. The legal way is going to be one of the best ways that we're going to try to tackle it, considering how state law kind of prohibits our ability to do as much on that regard.
Absolutely. And we've seen all of their contributions to our country, right? And historically so. So, Nahela, I'd love to hear from you. What does this look like now for Muslim women? And I know you've been doing a lot of work around engaging voters and making sure they have different resources available. So what does that look like for you? What are the next steps for our communities?
Well, one of the things I really would like to see is for Biden to repeal the Muslim ban, like in the first 100 days.
Oh, yeah.
Like that just has to happen.
Mhm.
We need to reunify families, just like the 545 kids that are lost at the border. We need to really focus on those two issues. And obviously, Miguel talked about deportation. As far as moving forward and what resources we have out there, I mean, we have a lot of resources, alhamdulillah. We have CAIR, we have all these resources. But I think one of the things that Mustafaa said, we need to really stay woke. Like there's no sleeping at all whatsoever. So the minute that you see someone, you know, feeling too comfortable, we need to make them uncomfortable and remind them of what we just went through. And I think that's going to be the key element here, because we were so excited about this. And so that excitement has to carry on at least for the next 4 years. I mean, straight, like in order to even think of a re-election. But even more so, I think it's important for us to also start aligning who we want to put in office. I think we don't think ahead. We get so comfortable and we're like, okay, Biden is in, we're good. No, we're not good. The work is just about to begin. You know, I think about this as when somebody embraces Islam. I know not everybody here is Muslim, but when somebody embraces Islam, that's the dawah. You've done that work, but that's not all the work. The work begins after. You have to learn everything. Similarly to all of these people that are just so excited, but where are we going here right after, right? So I guess my message is stay woke, stay connected. Like Miguel said, stay educated. You don't know something, ask. I think one of the things that also Mustafaa said, and I remember hearing this before, and it didn't make sense before, but it makes sense now based on what Mustafaa said, is like, we need someone that speaks to a 7-year-old and a 70-year-old, right? Like those words, small words, instead of employment, we want to say jobs. Because it's true, the way we communicate is key factor. And this is one of the things that Trump did. Anybody could understand him, you know? It didn't matter if you had a college degree or you just went, to elementary. It was just basically plain and simple language. So I think it's key factor for all of us to just stay woke, keep each other accountable, and our official electeds, make sure that we stay on top of the game and remind each other why we're here and our principles and values and move forward, inshallah.
I love that. And I think it's the perfect transition into discussing what are the tangible ways that we can all engage all of our elected officials? What are the next steps, right? And so what does that look like? What are the easiest things, what are the most basic ways that folks can start this process, Nahela, that you were alluding to here? And by the way, anyone can pick this up from here. What are the things that you guys have seen in your work of organizing, or what's worked and can work?
So for the environment, there you can go to the greenhoustontechs.gov website and register as a participant in the working groups. So the working groups for the climate action plan will be educating the community and then holding the council members accountable to try to implement the plan. On the state level, movetexas.org would be the organization I think that would probably help the most in terms of Latinos, and then just on climate justice and justice overall for the state of Texas. And on the federal level, Citizens Climate Lobby is a really good organization. Not only do they do great in terms of carbon pricing, but they're very good at teaching people how to be a a bipartisan organizer and how to speak to government officials. And so in a way that they can be effective and not be polarizing when they talk. And so those are the three places that I would suggest people go to get organized and get involved.
Awesome.
For me, I would say, you know, don't wait till the next election. Start registering people like tomorrow, you know, like we don't need to wait till like it's last minute. So, you know, as soon as you hear someone turn 18, it's like, take it and here, sign here, honey, and I'll take you out to lunch, whatever it takes. But I think that's number one. Number two, I think our commitment to fight for injustice, that commitment has to be there. You know, and most importantly, to protect the vulnerable and marginalized people and to make sure that we are, you know, listening. We don't listen enough. And so, as you can see, a lot of our people of color and Latinos, I mean, grassroots, we need to listen to their needs as well. You know, I don't know if you know, but 32 million Latinos were eligible to vote. And that's a huge number. So we need to make sure that we stay on our toes. We stay awake and we get people registered.
Inshallah.
Thank you. I would just say a couple, like very quickly, a couple things. One, I completely agree with Mustafaa. Getting rid of Donald Trump doesn't get us criminal justice reform. It doesn't get us healthcare. It doesn't get us COVID relief, right? I mean, it stops the free fall. And so the organization that has to happen now is to, you know, how we go forward. The second thing I would say is, look, as a former elected official myself, organize, show up. I mean, when people show up at meetings, it means something. When they send emails, it means something. And you know, I hate to say it, but you know, money. If we can pull resources together to support groups, to support initiatives, that's huge. And the last thing I would say, yeah, of course, we got to keep voting. We've got to, you know, keep encouraging people to stay involved, because look, I mean, this was not a landslide. It wasn't a huge win. It was a narrow, you know, barely getting by, and that shouldn't be happening because we're better than this. But yeah, so I mean, we have to keep going, and I think that's the message overall. It's like not to give up.
You know, I was thinking of, and a couple of people have already alluded to this, is that, and Mike, you can give me the numbers about the most recent turnout numbers as far as people who were eligible to vote but did not vote.
Yeah, it's gonna be like 60, 65, 66%. I mean, we're still counting ballots, but
yeah,
upper 60.
So if we got 65, 66% of our people, you know, people who are eligible to vote voting, that means we still got a lot of work to do, right? This is how we change the tide. It's like Sister Nahela was saying, we have to keep our feet on the gas. We have to continue our outreach efforts, our voter registration efforts. I mean, Council member Letitia Plummer she knows, she's been around in this game long enough, and Mike and all of us who have been working on campaigns, and Sister Rubina. Campaigns, we tend to start getting outreach and doing voter registration as elections are coming around, right? Mm-hmm. We really need to start kicking that off tomorrow and keep it up and keep the outreach up and get people, because we have elections coming up. Well, not tomorrow, but we have an election in Houston coming up December 12th for District B, and we have in my view, we have a fine candidate in that particular election that we ought to be getting behind and supporting these candidates and helping the people who align with us as well. And so, at every opportunity, we need to keep our eyes open when we have these local elections that are coming up. Or when they pop up, we need to be just as excited about our local officials as we are national, because quite honestly, you know, Councilmember Plummer, she's going to do more for my life in Houston than most likely Joe Biden's going to do. I mean, it's just the reality. She handles the nitty gritty, and so we need people in local office who support our views. And the only way we're going to get that is to stay engaged, to stay active, and the vote up so that we can get people. If we got 700,000 people in Harris County voting for Donald Trump, man, we got a lot of work to do.
and if I could jump on, John, thank you so much for what you just said. In terms of the city, I really I think that since the budget hearing, people have been a lot more engaged in the city council meetings. Now that we're virtual, it's so easy. Tuesday afternoons, you can sign up to speak. The agenda, the city agenda, it's public, so you can see what the agenda is and see what the topics are of conversation. You can, like I said, you can sign up to speak on Tuesday afternoons, and then our council meetings are on Wednesday mornings. And now that it's, now that we're all virtual, it's really easy for people to kind of hop on their phones and get engaged. So I really, I'm really asking people to do that, because a lot of times when you know what's going on, you know what you stand for, and you can really put pressure on us. I mean, one thing about reform, when the budget hearing was happening, I mean, we got thousands upon thousands of phone calls and emails. And even though the votes are, we don't determine as members, we don't determine the agenda, what's happening, but once an item's on the agenda, you can really put pressure on your council members. You are the reason why they've been elected. And we need to continue to remind our council members that they're only there because we voted for them. And so sending emails, calling the offices, those things do matter. And then the organization, the grassroots organizations coming on board with those issues too, makes all of the difference in the world. And so, I just really welcome people to get engaged with the city of Houston and what we're doing, because you're right, John. The things that touch you every single day are the things that we vote on every day.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and so the focus needs to be on that. And we can't wait until our budget hearings are in July. We can't wait to talk about what we want in the new budget. And so, we talk about that now, of how the city of Houston is going to spend their money, and what makes sense and what's important to the constituents of Houston.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you guys so much for these reminders. And I know that we have Texas Muslim Capital Day also coming up. So, Brother Mustafaa, would you like to share about what the experience has been on your end from organizing and seeing this and the impact it has made on a very local level?
Well, yeah, we've been doing the Texas Muslim Capital Day since 2003. And we enjoying in fact, we've had FIEL, LULAC, Mi Familia Bota, et cetera, many other organizations that we partner with and coalesce with, we take with us. And we not only take them with us, but we also embrace, when we were fighting against SB4, when we were fighting about any of the immigration reform, et cetera, we don't just go there on Muslim issues. The purpose of us going there is to energize the Muslim community and others, so they know how to interact with their state representatives, et cetera. I can't emphasize enough the need for us to grow up quick and not just be satisfied with somebody coming to our community and marginally representing us. I think that we have to start becoming like the other side. The other side, they don't do that. You can't come to their meeting and tell them, here's a flag we flew in Washington for in honor of you. No, you got to come there, and they got your voting record, and they're looking at it, and they say, okay, this is what you did. Why did you do that? They start interrogating. So, I'm getting off, I'm digressing a little bit, but I get a little too excited. But we go every year. This year it's going to be virtual. And so like you are, we're still looking for partners. So I've already been, I hope I didn't step on nobody's toes by asking people there in Houston, but we want all organizations to partner with us. Everybody that's on this call, FIEL, et cetera, everybody that's on this call is welcome to partner with us. It's real simple. Sister Ambreen, you have the info, right? Yeah,
I do, yes. And we'll be pushing out the graphics on social media. So definitely, please do stay tuned. Subscribe to our email newsletters. We'll be pushing those very important pieces of information out. The pieces of important topics and legislation pieces that are important to our communities, all respective, right? So beautiful. Thank you so much for that.
One more thing, real quick.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just become the committee lead, I guess, for this legislative stuff.
Nice.
We need to start talking about what are the issues and looking for the bills that they're going to be presenting. We need to start talking about that now, because we go early for that reason. All right, sorry, that's all I have to say.
No, that's perfect. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to come together and start having that discussion. So anyone who's watching this, who has seen any important pieces of legislation, as Brother Mustafaa had mentioned, do flag it to us. You have a group of people here who are willing and ready to work to represent you, right? And obviously are offering this opportunity for you to have and engage in this conversation with your elected officials. So thank you so much, Brother Mustafaa. I appreciate you and look forward to doing this with you. So
One
anyone
last thing,
else?
Sister
Yeah.
Umbrina, I'd like to really point out as we saw in the national elections and as we've seen locally in the successful elections that we have had, that the importance of coalition building cannot be underestimated. I mean, none of us alone are going to get what we want done alone.
Nope.
And that's why it is so important that we band together, that we keep our coalitions tight. I mean, look, we're not going to agree on every issue, but what we need to do is to band together and keep our coalitions tight, because, you know, the people who are affected by particular issues need to take the lead, right? And so if we have environmental issues, or if we have immigration issues, you know, CAIR is there to support and to do what we can to help our coalition partners. And so, you know, what Brother Mustafaa said was really important. When we have Texas Muslim Capital Day, when we have other capital days that we need to show up for, it's very important to keep these coalitions together. And the other thing he said about our legislative agenda, you know, last cycle I was really involved in the criminal justice reform legislative piece, and I can tell you that you cannot start early enough. There are already people working on bills on the other side. And we need to have those things done like yesterday. And now that we have a few elected officials that have made promises to us, it's time to hold them accountable, right? On all of our issues. And so we need to get started on this legislative initiative now.
Yeah, and you have to identify the right legislators to introduce your bills to there. And
Right.
that's one of the hardest parts of the whole the puzzle. We can write all the nice bills that we want, but if we don't have the sponsors there, it's not going anywhere.
That's right.
No, absolutely. If I could jump in too and just mention that there's one issue I want to focus on is crisis intervention, just assisting with mental health issues with police during our police reform. And I'm already working on writing that legislation. And like you said, I'm on choosing, you know, who co-sponsors, doing parallel bills on the House, Senate, and on the Senate side, and really making sure that we work on those and lobby that right now, because they're writing those bills now, and then they'll send to ledge for all of the language to be done properly. So it's urgent to get started right now.
Awesome. Nahela, were you going to say something as well?
No, I just want to echo everybody that's listening, everybody that does listen. Please share this video. You know, whoever was not able to be on this call today, to make sure that they get all this information. And just let's hold each other accountable. You know, and I think that's the best advice that we can moving forward. Each and one of us has a role to play. Each and every one of us wants the best for not only ourselves, our families, and our communities. So it's important that we actually stay woke and hold one another accountable.
Yeah, and just real quick, I'm sorry, but we also have to defend those who are doing a great job already, right? So like Councilmember Plummer's putting something up that actually gives more resources for mental health training, more resources, not defunding, more resources. We have to control that narrative. And so when the chief of police in Houston is trying to say, the election was lost because we were trying to defund the police, we have to hold them accountable as well while defending our partners who are doing great work across the state of Texas.
Thank you so much, Mike. Yeah, that's a beautiful reminder, as well as supporting those organizations and individuals who are doing the work as well, because yeah, we could all use it in any way possible, whether it's volunteering or donating, it doesn't matter. Yeah, whatever contributions you're able to make, please be sure to do so to empower those that are doing this work. Thank you so much. Would anyone else like to add anything else before we conclude this conversation? Anything I might have missed, or any final thoughts, closing pieces of advice that you'd like to leave our viewers with?
I just want to say something. I just want to say something really quick. I learned a lot just from being on this panel. And I like Nahela said, I hope like you guys can share this, because I would wish, like, I want to bottle you all up and like just take you everywhere I go so people can just get a glimpse, because there's just so much information, and education is key. You know, being an activist and a community leader takes a lot of passion. That's something I've learned, and just like I have mad respect for all of you. I am so honored to have y'all join us in this panel, and I just want to thank you again. And thank you for all you do, because it's amazing work.
Thank you for everything you do, Sister Rubina. We love you.
Yes,
We love you
yes.
so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Honestly, come to love.
And you know, one thing I would like to say is we should also be encouraging members from all of our communities to run for office, and to, you know, encourage our activists to run for office, or to find people from their movements who inspire them to run for office. I mean, having someone like Council Member Letitia Plummer, who is actually going to come back out to our community and speak to us, someone that we have a direct connect to, someone that we trust. It can't, so, you know, thank you so much, Letitia, for joining us. And to the young man down there that I'm looking at, you know, I don't call him an elected official anymore. Thank God he's not. You know, the joke was he wanted to be called the honorable at home.
Never happened.
You know, you heard that story, right? But you know, that's our future. You know, that's our future, and getting young people involved and seeing if we can keep them involved. Speaking to issues to our young people. I mean, young people turned out for this election, and we need to keep them involved and keep them engaged. So thank you all.
Yeah. And if I could remind everyone, you know, 2022 is around the corner.
Yep.
We'll have a huge gubernatorial, you know, race then. And then all of the folks that were elected with me are going to be reelected, hopefully in 2024. But there'll be multiple seats opened. So we're gonna have some district seats open, and we're gonna have 3 at-large seats opened, and that needs to start now too. So, you know, like everyone has said, now is the time to get the work done, and you know, and then we'll see the fruits of our labor moving forward. But we shouldn't start, you know, 6 months before the election is. We're only 5 points, right? Texas is not bad. I mean, we're not in bad shape. If we really focus on it, you know, we could have a shot.
We're better than Ohio. We're better than Iowa, right?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
we're a closer swing state than Ohio.
Yeah, I'm telling you, we really can make this happen, and we just have to do the work now. Yeah. We can't wait.
Absolutely not. Yeah, Mustafaa.
I'm afraid I might. Well, anyway, I'm a good. You know, one of the things, you know, why we take so many different groups with us, and many of our coalition partners, we have groups that can't advocate for themselves politically. All right. For example, you know, the people in DACA and that type of, they may not be able to vote. Right. So we have to learn the language. We have to understand how we can be a better advocate for those issues, because those issues affect all of us. And really, that's something I wanted to say. And I think it crosses all kinds of boundaries. I mean, the other thing is know what groups are out here and how we can coalesce. I was listening, Armand was talking, I just found out that he was dealing with environmental stuff. Well, they're still allowing me, I don't know why. I've been trying to get off the board of the Coalition of Community Organizations, COCO, in the 5th Ward. That's their whole thing is environmental justice.
Right.
So we need to coalesce with them. They're doing a lot of work, and have been doing it for a long time, dealing with concrete factories and all this, plants and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't want to I'm trying not to say too much.
So, you're always good.
Well,
we like to hear from you.
We just did an event where we focused on the creosote cancer ward 2 weeks ago, and so we had people, we had panelists, we did it virtually, and hopefully, you know, something will come to help that cancer sector out. Yes. and do so we're branching it. It's not just the climate action plan. We're moving on. And the other thing that we signed on was the TCEQ regulation on tanks. And so we signed a letter that actually went into 10 different things that they needed to update to penalize the ITC disaster because of the tank leaks. And so we're branching out, and we're trying to make sure that we give as much as we take in terms of support from the other groups in our coalition.
All right, excellent.
All right, super. Well, thank you all so much for everything that you all have done leading up to this election. For our viewers that are tuned in, please do follow the work of these amazing activists and community builders. And yeah, stay tuned for the incredible work that they're going to do. And if there's anything that you want to do to get involved in any of these different fields, you have all of these people that you can connect with. And so thank you all so much once again for joining us for this discussion and all of your work and contributions. And we look forward to working with you all in the next, inshallah, weeks leading up to months to do this important work. So assalamu alaikum. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Say
you.
one more time. Bye-bye to Mr. Trump.
No, hit the road, Jack.
Hit the road, Jack.
Don't come back.
No more.
All right.
All right.
Love all you guys. We'll see you soon.
Assalamu
Assalamu alaikum.
alaikum.